Well, it was a hell of an experience, I'll tell you that, Robbie. Oh boy, do I have stories for you. Sam Mirejovsky here, behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Forgive me that I was out of studio last week, end of last week. I was off in Washington, and I hadn't planned this, okay? It was not by design. But I ended up at the No Kings rally in Washington, D.C. Now, yeah, there were some bizarro things, of course. And, one of the, I was just, on Real America's Voice talking to Steve Gruber about this. One of the most insane things to me is going on social media today, yesterday, even the day before, and hearing them crow about this crowd size. They are as obsessed with crowd size as Trump. I mean, they tease Trump about the crowds, right? But they're completely obsessed with it themselves. 7 million people across the country. Now, you and I, mere mortals, cannot vet this number. That's why it's an easy number to fluff up. But when you start looking at density per square yard, things like this, there are metrics to use. You realize that their math is off to the tune literally of millions of people. Now, the example I can give you, because I, Sam Mirejovsky, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, was on the scene. And because of that, I can tell you, I followed the crowd from basically just by the White House, a block or two away from the White House, toward the National Mall. They didn't make it all the way to the National Mall. That's the long strip of grass that leads up to the Capitol building. I have seen so many, left-wing accounts on social media claim that this mall was filled with people. And they have photos. They show these photographs. It was filled with people. And I'm looking at the photo. I said, that never happened. I don't know what the picture's from, if it's from an inaugural event or some other protest. It certainly wasn't from Saturday. This is one of many examples that I can give you where there was a fair amount of exaggeration going on. Now, I think you may have seen this. Mike Benz was somewhere in the crowd. I didn't get to run into him, but I also saw the USAID people. This is another layer of it. Benz was in the crowd, and he goes, aha, there it is. The USAID operatives, the shuttered agency. They were out there, now presumably working through private funds from the likes of George Soros, directing people what to do, how to do it, scripting things. I saw a gal with a clipboard and with a script, and she's going around talking to people and making sure they're all on the same page. This is what we're going to do here. We got this plan. And I'm laughing because, have you been to a Trump rally? Now, I'm going to make this point a few times because it applies in different it applies in different ways here. You go to a Trump rally, and it is, by the way, certainly it's well choreographed by the campaign, the White House. You go to a Trump rally, it's organized, but nobody is told what to do or what to say or what to wear. Now, supporters of Trump show up. They wear the gear. They don't wear the gear. They come as they are. It's an organic deal. They're there because they love Donaldus Maximus. They're there to support Trump. They're there because they love him. And to that point, right, the Democrats always require some form of artificial intervention. Right? It's sort of like the protest never grows on its own. It has to be ginned up. Even the participants, even if they aren't being paid, they're showing up supposedly spontaneously. They still require instruction. Now, I'm laughing about this because this is leftism, in a nutshell. The little children need to be told what to do by daddy government. And that's kind of what it is, right? So I'm just telling you, this is one of the things. Now, this dovetails into my big criticism of the event. My big high-level observation about Saturday, whether it was in D.C. or anywhere else, I'm walking through the crowd, and every one of the signs, whether it's mass-produced or hand-drawn, is all about ridiculing Trump. It's making fun of him being a pot-bellied baby. It's making fun of, it's criticizing him for being a Nazi or a fascist. Obviously, no kings, no kings. He's a tyrant. Everything is about Trump. Now, what's the problem with this? Those of you who follow me on social media heard my quick, in-the-moment takedown of this. I'm walking through the crowd. I start filming myself. My reaction. Very straightforward. What is the Democratic Party for? What is it that they actually support? Because as best as I can tell, the only way they can get their people to show up is when it's anti-Trump. It's almost as if Trump has to do the work not only for the Republicans, getting Republicans to show up, and we all know that he does a great job of this. Trump is able to get Republicans to show. Trump is able to deliver, voters organically showing up to his rallies. He's an e-ticket attraction. But at the same time, Trump apparently is the only person who can deliver people showing up en masse to a Democrat event. Nobody was there interested to see Chuck Schumer do a dance where it looked like he may have been on the verge of a Fetterman-like seizure. Nobody was there listening to George Conway, hey, Donald Trump, how many kids did you kill today? And when he did this literally in the crowd, the Democrats didn't even know what to do. It was so cringe, they took his mic away. Everybody that spoke there was lame. Nobody got anybody excited. But the minute that they said things like, down with Trump and down with the kids, everybody got excited, yay! This is, I'm just saying, this is what's so crazy about it all. The Dems got nothing. Okay, did people show up for Biden rallies? Remember during the election, before Biden decided to step down and anoint Kamala to be his chosen replacement. Of course, none of that was very king-like, was it? My anointed, so declared heir, Kamala Harris. Oh, sit down, peasants, you don't get a vote. You remember the rally? What did I tell you? Here, behind this What's Right microphone, I said to you folks, there's no way this guy can win. It ain't happening. And the reason it's not happening is because nobody's showing up. The excitement factor for the walking corpse, a.k.a. Joseph R. Biden, was pretty minimal. Hating Trump isn't enough. You have to be for something. And Republicans, those of you with a little bit of a memory here, can recall the era when we, as a party, decided to nominate the likes of Mitt Romney, who's about as exciting as a limp biscuit, because we thought that hating Obama was going to get the job done. And it didn't. Because as a political strategy, all of this is decidedly unviable. Let me take a quick break here. There's more to discuss about this. Plus, of course, I have some good stories from D.C., so if you want to know what the hell's going on in the country, stay tuned.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
I think one of the best moments of the Saturday protest, No Kings protests, is that conservatives, including yours truly, immediately took to the social media pages to adopt this no king. So we started calling Trump a king. Well, if you can't, right? I mean, they think that they're using it as some big slur. So we turned it around and just co-opted it. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. I am Nevada's favorite, recovering Californian, here behind the What's Right microphone Monday through Friday, except for the 2 days last week that I was in D.C. Forgive me, folks. Sometimes duty calls. Sam@what'srightshow.com. That's my email. @what'srightsam on X. You need to follow me there because had you followed me there this weekend, you would have been privy to everything I was doing. I shared. And so anyway, you don't want to miss out on that. Okay, let me say something. It wasn't that long ago that the left wanted a king president. Can we say that? A king president? King-like president? No. They wanted an actual king. They wanted Obama to be their king. Remember this? There was an entire CNN article written about it. It's obviously resurfaced now that the Democrats are decidedly against tyrannical rule. This was 2012. Liberals want Obama to be a king, not a president. Quote, what's clear is that the liberals speaking out don't want a president. They want a king, albeit a liberal king, but still a king who would be unrestrained by Congress, as well as the checks and balances enshrined in our Constitution. Remember this when I remind you of this occasionally because it was such an important telling moment where Obama was giving an interview and he goes, listen, I wish I could just get this all done with the wave of a pen, right? It's this pesky Constitution. It's in the way of me getting stuff done. And when he said that, his supporters all said, yeah, that. More cowbell. We would love to give Obama those types of powers. You know what's really funny too? And there's no hint of irony. None. The Brits, in the UK, there was at least one No Kings rally, and both Americans living in Great Britain and locals, citizens of the UK, showed up to protest Donald Trump. Now, does somebody want to tell them? I kind of want to go and say, knock on it. You guys have an actual king. You have a monarch. And I did. I responded to one of these idiots in the UK. Oh, no kings, buddy-o. I'm like, sir, excuse me, you have an actual king. And do you know what their response was? This is interesting. The response was from this person, I obviously hit a nerve. Yes, we have a king, but he doesn't have any actual power. Huh. So it's really about the power? How many executive orders did Obama unleash during his presidency? You go through, and we may take time to do this today at some point, because as we begin to take down all these reactions and commentary in the press by some of these nutso libs, you start to get an idea that they've glossed over an entire period of history from 2009 to 2017, the Obama years. Obama acted with great authority. Now, the American presidency has a fair amount of power. And the libs, this is my assessment of it, just kind of sorting through it all. The left in this country is just mad that Trump has discovered how to use the power. And I'm thinking, and maybe you agree with this, I don't know, if you don't, let me know. I'm thinking that it's the left, the Democratic Party, that showed Trump how to robustly use his power, because they used that vast power against him, his family, and his allies. What we saw over the last 4 years was something straight out of some banana republic, dictatorship in sub-Saharan Africa. Oh, we got a new regime in place. The old one is persona non grata. We're going to make sure this guy never sees the light of day again, politically speaking. So you can't reason with these folks. You can't. They're out there, screaming, and I'm walking through the crowd, and I knew, Robbie, I was up against a logic wall, like a blocked, artery in the brain. When I saw a girl, young lady, it's not a boomer. This young lady, she's taking a rest, and she's on a little kind of flower bed curb, kind of thing, border of a flower bed that's wide enough for her to lay on. And she's laying down on it. You can see this picture, by the way. I have it on my X account at What's Right Sam. And she's laying there, and she's holding a sign. She's got a sign that says, big letters. I saw Anne Frank, caught my eye because of something else I saw, but get to that in a moment. Anne Frank warned us about this in her diary. Okay. Anne Frank warned us literally about Donald Trump trying to save Israel. Warned us about that in her diary. Okay. I'm just seeing the sign, and I look over at her. Of course, she's got a mask on. And then she's wrapped up in a keffiyeh. It's a little Yasser Arafat headscarf thing. And I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, you know what? The person that's, supports from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. In other words, the support of an eradication of Israel and everybody by extension that lives there, I'm sure is a spot on authority to tell us what Anne Frank would have done in this moment. But I'm not going to start a conversation with her. It's not my, other people do the gotcha camera interface journalism. I was just there to observe. And I also, this 45-year-old body of mine is not up for getting, beaten up or anything. So I'm not going to pick any fights. People were, they were fired up. And there are times where I said, I'm going to avoid this part of the rally because I already look like a conservative. I'm wearing a button-down shirt, for Pete's sake, and I look like I've showered. So that, was all working against me. I was minutes away from getting outed. But you can't reason with somebody who's wearing a keffiyeh and wrapping herself also simultaneously, in the words of Anne Frank. I mean, you're just not going to get anywhere. And that's the problem. People have lost their minds. I saw it like for me, literally a giant eruption of mental illness. And of course, some of the image, I did not see this. And again, I did not go into the main throng of this, but I didn't see the, Charlie Kirk stuff. But you've seen the images. People dressed like Charlie Kirk's assassin. There was a teacher that was caught on tape making a bullet shot to the neck reference, pointing to her neck and jerking her head back and laughing. People have been identified in some cases, and I don't know. I mean, if you're a teacher somewhere in some blue city, I don't know what kind of ramifications that's going to bring. This is just horrible stuff. And then, perhaps most jarring to me as the father of young kids, there's a boy again wearing a mask. I don't know what's up with these liberals and their masks. They still think COVID is a thing. So anyway, he got the mask on. The poor kid probably doesn't get oxygen to his brain, which probably explains why he was stabbing a piñata effigy of Trump while his parents encouraged him, egged him on. Teaching normalization of assassination and harm done to a human being, literally the president of the United States. Can you imagine? I mean, you and I, we didn't like Obama. We weren't fans of President Obama. Imagine holding a piñata of Obama and having your kids stab at it. and laughing and putting that video. Unbelievable. All right, quick obscene profit timeout here, bottom of the hour. I, your host, Sam Mirejovsky, will be back in just a minute. Yeah, well, I know I wasn't here to talk about Bolton, so that's the problem. Sam Mirejovsky behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, here on the station. Now, Bolton, if you saw me on Real America's Voice, Grant Stinchfield had me on 7 Eastern live to talk about this. On Thursday, I'm up in the plane. I'm flying to get to D.C., and I land, and a phone explodes, and it's all about Bolton getting indicted. And of course, it was a much longer indictment, folks, than the other 2 blockbuster indictments, the one against Comey and the second against Letitia James. Meaning, I think it's over 30 pages. So I said, oh boy, I got to digest this. And instead, here's what happened. I said, well, there's no show today, and I'm going to read it tonight. I'm going to read it in bed. I'm going to tuck myself in. I'm going to have a little chocolate. I'm in my hotel, and I'm going to read this. I'm going to enjoy it on my iPad. And I decided to go for a walk. So it's a beautiful day. DC weather was fantastic. That's probably one of the reasons why people showed up for the No Kings rally, because if the weather had sucked, these people would have all stayed home. This was not Birkenstock compatible weather, is what I'm getting at. So anyway, I decided to go on a walk, and Lauren texts me and tells me, hey, Sam Stinchfield, Real America's Voice, they want to have you on. And I said, well, when? And she goes, well, 6:55, whatever, right before the 7 o'clock hour. I still had my watch, on Vegas time. So I said, I'll look at my watch. I got 3 hours. I realized it was in 20 minutes. I said, I got try to get an Uber. It was like 7-8 minutes out. I don't have time. So I literally ran back to my hotel. This is what I do. I ran to my hotel, but got to throw my, get my computer up and running, and then quickly speed read. This is where it's helpful to be a lawyer, a practicing attorney. I sped read through the indictment. So those of you who saw me, that's the backstory to my appearance on Grant's show. But anyway, simple fact of the matter is, this is the best indictment yet, and it's absolutely methodically, laid out. And I was having some fun over the weekend. I said, just wait, guys, just wait. Andy McCarthy, former prosecutor, Republican guy, but not a Trumper. And he's certainly not a fan of the indictment against Comey and the indictment against Letitia James. Thinks that they're flimsy. I respectfully disagree. So I threw up a little tweet, said, give it, just waiting for that Bolton apologia. An apology. Mean like excusing Bolton's conduct. Hearing from McCarthy, see what he has to say. Well, folks, I always say here on the program, always right, rarely wrong, and this was one of the times that I was decidedly wrong, because Andy McCarthy came out with a scorcher. Even he thinks the Bolton indictment's good. This guy, I know it's last week's news. I'm just telling you, this is a big story. Because first off, he did what he did with complete impunity. And he knew, and in his conversations with his so-called editors, people he was sharing this information with, he knew that this was bad. And also, this is a guy who had spent hundreds of hours combined on national television as a commentator throughout the Trump indictment, the Southern District of Florida indictment, the Mar-a-Lago documents indictment, spent that time talking about how Trump needed to go to prison for the rest of his life, and about Chelsea Manning, and about other people who had shared classified information. Now, I want you all on this story to know one thing, And it's hugely, hugely important because you're going to hear a lot of whataboutism. Well, Trump got charged with this, and this is just a revenge tour, and Trump, being a king and no kings, and you're going to hear all that horse crap. Now, how many people had charges against them, functionally dropped, where they deserved to be charged with retaining unlawful retention of classified documents? And let's go through the list, right? Under the Biden administration, which apparently, according to the left right now, is the standard for a decent and lawful presidency, Pence got a pass. Who else? Biden himself got a pass. Okay. Bolton, if you will recall, this is hugely important. Bolton himself got a pass because this investigation started, Merrick Garland had this investigation. They had all the facts, declined to charge Bolton, actually sort of let it hang over his head and got him to be a useful propaganda tool to fight against Trump. That's my theory. I think I'm fairly right about that. But nonetheless, there are a whole bunch of people who got pass. None of those people that I just mentioned had the power to declassify the documents that they were accused of possessing. The only one that had that power, that unilateral power, was Trump, because he retained those documents from his presidency. But Sam Biden, no. Biden was vice president when he retained those documents. Now, I bring all this up to say that's why the documents case against Trump was always so flimsy. Because all Trump had to do is say, oh, yeah, I'm calling it, I declassified it. And there's no procedure that you follow. You don't fill out a form. The president just goes, yeah, just declassify it. Oh, hocus pocus, whatever. You don't need any formalization of that. And I mentioned this from the very beginning when this case got filed. This just had a glaring fundamental flaw to it. Trump had an obvious defense. Okay, so none of that exists for Bolton. It didn't exist for Biden. It didn't exist for Pence, any of these people. Hillary Clinton, right? Zip, didn't work. So don't forget that when you talk to people about this and they say, but you Bolton thing, oh my gosh, it's just lawfare. And it's not a flimsy case. And even people who are often critical of the Trump administration fight it. So just letting that be where it is. Now, no King's Rally. This event. And I'm going to get, I'll get to Santos. Just hang in there, folks. You got to be patient with me. A lot happened, and I was on the ground in D.C., and I got a lot to talk about. Just got to go through it methodically. Saturday after the event, Batya Ungar-Sargon spoke to Sean Duffy. Sean Duffy is the new transportation secretary. He is, and I hesitate to call him this, okay? He's our Pete Buttigieg. Now, he's nothing like Mayor Pete, because Mayor Pete showed up to his job and then went on paternity leave or whatever the hell that was and didn't do anything, and the whole country was turning into a dumpster fire, and he pushed woke DEI on airlines and on everywhere in the transportation industry. It was horrible stuff. Sean Duffy's cleaning the mess up. And he is this very, in my opinion, very underrated secretary, member of the administration. So Duffy got asked on News Nation Saturday night, asked him about AOC, and asking, because AOC claimed during the rally that the GOP is luring men in by legitimizing their racism. And here is the exchange. Listen, just this is how it went.
Is AOC right that the GOP is luring in men by legitimizing their racism and their desire to be kings?
Right, because you have Republicans who say men aren't toxic. right? We want to celebrate masculinity. And what's happened with young men today is pretty remarkable. They've been told you should be responsible. You should respect women. You should get a job. You should work hard. You should actually go back to church. Be honorable. That's what they're called to do by this new movement within the Republican Party. And they've embraced it, which is wonderful. But I love your opening on the No Kings protest, which is actually a Hate America protest. Donald Trump, king, he won the 7 swing states. He won the popular vote. And then everything he's doing, he actually ran on the campaign trail. He told everybody he was going to do this. And the majority of Americans voted for him. This is just disenfranchised Democrats, but also George Soros is funding it. The Socialists of America are funding and supporting it, and so are the Communists of America supporting this rally. So, again, it is the offbeat crew that lost and are angry that are going to come and protest and say Donald Trump is a king. No, he's just a great, strong American leader.
Trump broke the compact with the left, and I'm going to say that the left broke the compact with Trump first, but what do I mean by this? It was always understood that if you're a Republican and you run for the highest office in the United States, you run for the White House, you are going to run as a conservative, but then govern as a centrist, making vast accommodations to the Democratic Party in the middle. Well, in the middle, in the left, on the left. You are going to be bipartisan. You're not going to go actually govern and do the things you say. You ran on rounding people up and deporting them. You're not going to do it. So I said this on X and on Instagram over the weekend on my @What'sRightSam accounts, and I put up there a video, and I said, I don't get this. I mean, Trump won the election, won the popular vote. He got the swing states. He just nailed it across the board. This is actually literally democracy. And their response after they've had some time to come up with a retort, the Democrats' retort now is, what's Trump doing with that power? And he's abusing the power. But he's not, you see? For example, just look at the immigration stuff. Trump is enforcing federal law. You aren't allowed to come into this country without authorization. You need a visa. You need residency. You need citizenship. You need something to validate your presence in the country. Otherwise, it's out. If the people don't like this, elect people into Congress that will change the law. But Trump is actually responsible for enforcing law. And this is just what is so messed up about the whole No Kings thing. And by the way, I think it's all going to backfire massively on the Democrats. And some poll numbers on this are starting to come out. We'll get to that as well. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Back in just a moment. Hi, Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Welcome to the What's Right show, the hour brought to you, as always, by Sam and Ash Injury Law. You get into an accident, one thing you don't realize, and it's a big issue, it's a problem, are medical bills. They stack up. Your insurance doesn't cover all of it, both your health insurance and your car insurance. And you can get stuck with some huge out-of-pocket bills. Have you seen an ambulance bill, for example? Sheesh. The ER is expensive. Everything's expensive. So you've got these bills. Now, another issue that comes up is, somebody might have, car insurance, liability insurance, the person that hit you, drunk, whoever it is. But guess what? That insurance might not be enough to cover those bills. And this is where Sam and Ash Injury Law can really save you. Because what we do is we go in and we methodically reduce those bills down so that you do not have to pay as much out of pocket at the end of the case. And the lower those bills go, the more you get to keep of your settlement. It's simple math. I think a lot of people don't realize this. So the resolution, the easy out here, hire Salmon Ash Injury Law right away. Get us to work on your medical bills. Get us to work on the insurance company. Let us handle all those calls. Quick, easy call, 702-820-1234. That's the number to reach Salmon Ash Injury Law in Nevada and California, day or night. 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. All right, folks, we've got, well, I get to also shutdown news as well, right? We got to get to that. Trump, by the way, got asked on Air Force One, coming back from Florida. He went down to Mar-a-Lago. Trump wasn't even in town for the No Kings rally. I was having a small lunch in D.C. Outside in front of the Willard Hotel, which is next door to the White House, basically. I think what a lot of people don't realize in D.C., things are much more crowded, much more dense than you realize. You think the White House is this big, expansive plot of land that you don't see it. No, it's there. It's next door to hotels, buildings, office buildings, government buildings, etc. And when Trump leaves, you know he's leaving, because if you're outside, this great big Marine One helicopter takes off. And let me just tell you, it's not quiet. So at my table, conversation had to kind of quiet down, and, Trump, whooshed away. And I was laughing because I didn't at that point know his travel schedule. And I said, I bet you he's leaving town and going to Florida. And sure enough, then I got an update that that's exactly what was going on. So Trump was out of town. Coming back to D.C. Last night, he does what he always does. He's talking to the press. And he's got, they asked him about the No Kings thing. And, well, here's what he said.
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country. And I looked at all the brand new signs paid for, I guess it was paid for by Soros and other radical left lunatics. It looks like it was. We're checking it out. The demonstrations were very small, very ineffective, and the people were whacked out. When you look at those people, those are not representative of the people of our country.
Mr. President, besides San Francisco...
By the way, I'm not a king. I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great. That's all it is. I'm not a king at all.
This is great. I mean, the right approach is what a lot of conservatives did online, me included, is to just take it. In fact, I posted a picture of me in front of Congress with a No Kings hat on, like a little sticker over my picture, and I was like, I was feeling kingly. Others, I saw Posobiec did it too. Just own it. Okay, all right, King Trump, there you go. You got us. we have a king. You had Obama, we've got Trump. So where's this really going? I saw that too. Yeah, that Toronto did a no tyrants demonstration, because they literally said, we've changed the No Kings theme of other events around the world to no tyrants so as not to mix messages in a country with a monarchy. No crowns got changed to no clowns. Can I tell you this from the perspective of a marketer, somebody who does marketing, which I, of course, do for my law firm, and I've done it for past law firms, and I think I'm reasonably good at it. If you are changing your messaging in the moment, like the day of the event, if you're changing your messaging like that, your branding, wheels are falling off of this thing, right? But the whole Obama, you go through Obama's history. What about surveilling journalists? Remember this? Leak crackdowns? They went after James Rosen using the Espionage Act. They used a 1917 law, more than all prior administrations combined, okay? Against a whole bunch of people, including, of course, you remember Snowden. They targeted killings of U.S. citizens. Office of Legal Counsel declared it lawful, even though it was norm-shattering. Anwar al-Awlaki. Now, you know what they ruled it. It went all the way up, went through the courts, and I guess he was an enemy combatant. So thankfully, we have that signed off. When Trump decides to drone strike Antifa people in the U.S., because, he's got legal precedent for you. Don't look at me like that. Obama made that happen for Trump. That's what's crazy about it. Okay, there's the music. Sam Mirejovsky here. Be back after the top of the hour. Another hour of the What's Right show up next. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right show. Sam Mirejovsky here, your friend in these troubling times. Well, they're not all troubling, but there is some trouble on the horizon. At What's Right Show on X, that's where you can find the program. At What's Right Sam, that's my personal Twitter account where I am active. And, of course, sam@whatsrightshow.com is my email. I almost get the impression that Democrats are looking to tank the economy. That's the hope that they have. By keeping the government closed, by keeping artificially, right, the certain mechanisms that operate our country from functioning, there is an economic cost. There's no question about it. Now, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball here, folks. I wish I did. My impression is that the chances of the government reopen sooner than later are going to go up now that Saturday's rallies have been held. One thing I observed at the D.C. rally where I was over the weekend on the ground, I heard a lot of people, a lot of the speakers, everybody got up there to talk about the shutdown, the Donald Trump shutdown. Trump doesn't care about people. He's, thoughtless. A thoughtless despot, a tyrannical king. Right. So they used it for amping up the messaging and getting people fired up for the rally. Now that that's over, my sense is that the government will reopen. But again, I don't have any predictor of this. And frankly, everybody asked in D.C. who has any amount of power and knowledge flat out told me they don't have a predictor of it either. I think they're down now to, 5? They need 5 Senate Democrats to skate on this or get rid of the filibuster. The Republicans could do that. If Thune, decide to go, you know what? We know that when the Democrats take over, if and when, but eventually at some point, you got to presume the Democrats will take the Senate again. These are not people that are going to abide by any norms. These are the same people that aren't apologizing for and urging Jay Jones to leave the race after threatening to actually murder the children of a Republican. Little fascists deserve to die. So this is a party that's not going to adhere to any norms. So why are we adhering to those norms? Right? See what I'm saying? Now I'm not taking a position on it, but that is one out because as it's currently stated, we need 60 votes, right, to break the filibuster. And if you were to do away with it, well, then, it'd be down to 50. Well, 51. So you could even lose 3 Republicans in the Senate and have J.D. Vance come in and advance the bill. Well, my only thing I'll say is if the Democrats just continue down this road, the Republicans can fix it and take all the credit for reopening the government. You see, that's one problem for the Democrats politically. It's very clear from their messaging they want the Republicans to pay for this, politically. And I don't think that that's happening. I mean, the perception widely is held that this is not Trump's fault, and it's certainly not Republicans' fault, blaming it more on the Democrats, but that's not how they see it. So it just will depend. Now, I bring this up. There's some indicators. I saw this and I shared this actually with our our firm here at Salmon Ash Injury Law in our Monday morning meeting, and I talked about the spike in, I don't know if you saw this, a spike in LSAT taking. More people are sitting for the LSAT. There's a sharp increase from 2004 to 2005. And when I say a sharp increase, I'm talking 70, I think I calculated it, 73% jump. So that's enormous. And typically what this is, it's an indicator that people in the economy, particularly younger people in the economy, don't see a good job market. And so they go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to grad school. I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to enroll. I'm just going to get myself out. I'm going to live on student loans. I'm just going to kind of take a 4-year hiatus, 3 years for law school, and plus a little bit of time there for the bar. So no, I mean, people do think this way, and people contemplate this. And it's an indicator. I saw this, of course, back in 2008. You know, when we had markets collapse, and we had a lot of people who suddenly flooded the job market from the financial services industries, right? All the banking, all the mortgages. You know, everybody was in mortgages. I was living in Orange County at the time, and every third person you ran into was some sort of, functionary inside the mortgage business. And those people were all SOL when it all came crashing down to earth. And a lot of them goes, I can't find another job, so I might as well go and get an MBA, right? Or go to law school. That happened. So I'm just reporting this. I think that the incredible damage that Biden did to the economy, that the Biden spending bill, okay, the so-called Deficit Reduction Act, which did actually the literal opposite, so damaging. And you saw it. You and I, we experienced it here in Vegas, wherever you live in the U.S. You felt this, right? I mean, prices began just going up, and it was all predictable. We talked about it here on the program as it was happening. You give everybody $1,000. You give everybody $2,000. Whatever the number is, the cost basis of entering and competing for a fixed number of goods will go up. And the only problem is that it wasn't a fixed number of goods, because coming out of COVID, the supply chain was damaged. The supply chain in some cases was broken. So instead of, set number of goods, there was actually less goods available. Now, the problem with the leftists is they spend a lot of time going to college and learning things like gender studies. But Econ 101, unless it's a mandated course, they probably, by the way, in Econ now, I bet there's colleges, universities, maybe even Ivy League schools that teach Econ as a social justice course, right? The economics of white privilege. I could see that. You can opt out of learning actual economics, because if you learn actual economics, you'll, dare say, someday become a Republican. So they don't want that. So they'll probably find ways. And I remember this at UCI years ago when I went there for a few years. That kind of stuff happened. But Econ 101, you learn that the less of something that you have in an economy, and if the demand is constant and the supply of that goes down, cost will go up. But it was even worse than that under Biden. Supply went down. It was kind of across the board of stuff, right? Supply went down. Cost, of course, then immediately went up, but we also dropped free money into the economy. And so everybody had proportionally more money to spend to compete for a dwindling number of goods. Put it another way, suddenly everybody had more money to purchase less. That is like a brush fire. That is a flash flood. It is in economic terms, an absolute, it's a fast-moving disaster. And you can't slam the brakes on it. Remember Janet yelling, it's transitory. It's just a naked lie. It was never transitory. Now, I still maintain that what Trump is doing, deregulation, investing in American infrastructure, creating, simplifying the tax code, putting in tax breaks, all this stuff is good. But I submit to you that the Democrats are singularly focused, and this is why they're the party that cares more about themselves and their political power than they are about the people they purport to represent. They would rather tank the U.S. economy so they could score a political win against Trump than, dare say, have our country recover and get past this. Now, what's fascinating, a lot of people have talked about tariffs. It's another thing that's going on behind the scenes. China had an obstinate trade negotiator who just got fired. Robbie, did you see this? China had a guy that threatened to blow up the global economy, and he was negotiating against Trump. Now, I viewed it at the time as standard Chinese operating procedure. CSOP. It was standard CSOP. SCOP, excuse me. SCOP. Standard Chinese operating, because this is what they do. They threaten, they bluster, everything, and guess what? Trump does the same thing back, which is why, the Chinese don't quite know what to make of Trump, right? That's why Trump has that advantage. But anyway, their hardliner got sacked. That I saw that today in the news. So, things are going on, and I think China needs to stabilize things for them, because I've said this before on the program. Everybody that thinks that China is this, unstoppable dragon behemoth, I think that their economy is on thin ice. I think it's far more precarious over there than it seems. And I know there's a lot of social media accounts extolling how strong and powerful and massive investments and growth China is, and look at everything that China's doing. But I think a lot of that is Chinese propaganda and is weak. So it's weakened. So, but again, global economy, we're in a dangerous spot right now. And I see some indicators that objectively tell me that people are getting worried. So just wanting to pass that along to you. Now, the shutdown, I'll tell you how this is affecting Trump politically. It's not what you'd think, or at least it's not what they intended. Sam Mirejovsky, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, on the What's Right Media Network.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
CNN today got into some of the president's poll numbers. Data guru over there, Harry Enton, took this apart. I don't think this was good for the Senate Democrats, Washington, D.C. Democrats watching. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Friends, good to be with you. So, Enton, basically, the first question is the shutdown affecting Trump's poll numbers? Right? Specifically, Trump's poll numbers. Is it affecting him? And, the short answer, of course, is no.
Turns out shutdowns are different the second time around when it comes to Donald Trump. Take a look here. We speak about Donald Trump shutdowns, net approval rating. We're talking 20 days into it. In 2018/2019, Donald Trump's net approval rating was already falling. The shutdown was eating into his popular support. It was down 3 points already at this particular point and would fall considerably more. It was very much on the decline. You come over to this side of the screen, this shutdown hasn't eaten into Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually up a point in terms of his popular support. So the bottom line is this. The first shutdown during Trump's first term, 2018-2019, was hurting Donald Trump. This one is not hurting him at all. There's no real reason Donald Trump might say, at least when it comes to popular support, I want to get out of this shutdown.
There it is, right? Okay. Important. Now, of course, the next questions are, where are we, right? Who do the American public blame for this, right? What is the sentiment among Americans for who is responsible for the shutdown? And again, blame doesn't appear to be going to Trump. Certainly not when you compare the past shutdown in his first term.
What about the question of blame?
Yeah, okay. What about the question of blame? Okay, you see Donald Trump's net approval rating was down 2018 to 2019. You talk about 2025 as net approval rating is up. It comes down to the blame game, a game I loved to play when I was younger. Blame Trump for the shutdown a great deal. In 2018/2019, 61%, more than 3 in 5 Americans blame Trump a great deal for that particular shutdown. You come over to this side of the screen, look at this. It's a different world. It's a different world. 48% of Americans blame Trump a great deal for this particular shutdown. So it's more than 3 in 5 back in 2018/2019. It's less than half, a drop of 13 points. Again, it's no real wonder that Donald Trump, at this point, looking at the shutdown, says, you know what, it's not actually harming me politically, in large part because he's getting less of the blame.
When you look at what the Democrats are doing, okay, the Democrats are out there throwing themselves a kind of a carnival, no kings rally. It's a carnival. Everybody's dressed up in stupid costumes, right? They look dumb, I think. They look dumb, they look angry, and they look, this is so important, they look powerless. Meanwhile, Trump is showing up, he's doing work, he's taking care of world peace, and sort of very little dispute about the fact that Trump is accomplishing things even in spite of the government being shut down. And the Democrats are filming these stupid videos of themselves roaming the hallways of Congress, going, ooh, where are the Republicans? Where are the Republicans? But in so doing, they're, making themselves look stupid because they're just in these big empty rooms. It's obvious why the Republicans aren't there. You, the Democrats, shut down the government. Duh. And actually, Enton gets to Trump signing executive orders as one of the things that probably is helping him quite a bit with the American public, with his approval numbers.
And he's doing things differently during this shutdown.
Yes, exactly right. We talk about Donald Trump and you say, okay, he wants to be a consequential, influential president. Well, if the legislative process is basically freezed up, on Capitol Hill, you may say, well, then he can't actually get legislation through. But that's not how Trump is governing in this term. We've spoken about this over and over and over again. He's using his pen. He's using executive orders. Trump executive orders at this point of presidency. In 2017, it was just 50. Look at this. Already 210 executive orders signed by Donald Trump during this presidency. That is the most in a year. You have to go all the way back since Franklin Delano Roosevelt to find a president who signed more executive orders in a year than Donald Trump has already signed this time around. And remember, John Berman, we still have 2 months to go in this year, so it wouldn't be surprising to me if he signs even more.
Yeah, it seems to be saying, Congress, you don't want to do something?
I'll do it.
I'll do it.
They're not saying no kings, right? Listen, this is today. No kings was 2 days ago. Nobody here on CNN is going, gosh, this dictator Trump, what is he doing with all these executive orders? They're actually going, hey, Democrats wanted to shut down Congress, wanted shutting down the country. The Republican president, Donaldus Maximus, is actually getting stuff done. And by the way, as I said earlier, Trump will take advantage of the shutdown to cut down the size of government, which yesterday Trump spoke to Maria Bartiromo and said that, yeah, that's precisely what he was going to do.
Do you think that the government shutdown is all about this rally that's happening this weekend, the No Kings rally?
No, some people say they want to delay it for that. A king, this is
more
not a
than
king. They're referring to me as a king. I'm not a king.
Right. No, but just so that Chuck Schumer could go and say, I'm fighting Trump.
Well, Chuck is, at the end of the line. He's being beaten by everybody that they poll against him. And, what he did is he did the right thing a couple of years ago on something like this. And he got hurt by his party. And it doesn't, I don't think it matters to him. I think he's just so dead that he'll do anything. I think they could just stay out forever. To be honest with you. Now, what we're doing is we're cutting Democrat programs that we didn't want because, they made one mistake. They didn't realize that gives me the right to cut programs that Republicans never wanted. Giveaways, welfare programs, etc. And we're doing that, and we're cutting them permanently. We're cutting a $20 billion project that Schumer fought for 15 years to get, and I'm cutting the project. The project is going to be dead. It's pretty much dead right now.
I don't know what Chuck Schumer And all these Senate Democrats, Bernie Sanders, I don't know what they are thinking. Trump stared down Hamas. Trump got Hamas to negotiate. Trump negotiates against China. Trump is no match for you, Senate Democrats. I hate to break it to you. Remember when Chuck Schumer said, oh, this every day that goes on is better for us Democrats. Idiotic. And never forget what I said on day one of this. As news was breaking on the 1st of October, I said the first political casualty in this mess is going to be Chuck Schumer. I stand by that. 100%. All right, George Santos next. I promise I'll get to it. All right, folks, this hour of the program brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust for your injury case. You know, when you get hurt, you or a loved one, suddenly there's all this stuff to deal with. Emails, phone calls, responding to people. You don't know what the right response is. And here's the rule that I always like to follow. If you're going to get an attorney, right, or you're going to get somebody to help you, you've got to get somebody who will actually take the burden off of you, right? It can't be an additive thing. And this is what's so great about Sam & Ash Injury Law. It's not just that we have good lawyers here. We have an entire team. We have support staff. We have secretaries, great people, case managers who will work with you, who will answer your questions, who will talk to you, communicate with you, email you, whatever you need. But most importantly, also deal with the other side and dealing with all that paperwork, keeping things organized, prepared for when it's time to negotiate your case. That's the Sam & Ash difference. So if you've been hurt, call Sam & Ash 24 hours a day. We're here, ready to take your call. 702-820-1234, Nevada and California, because you deserve what's right. All right. George Santos. While I was in D.C., the story broke that Trump commuted his sentence, and I got some emails. I'm going to respond to all of you here who emailed me about this in one fell swoop. And, you know, first off, it's a commutation, not a pardon. What does that mean? Well, when you commute a sentence, you're basically not taking away the criminal conviction. The criminal conviction, the record stays. So becomes an ex-felon, ex-con, right? He still has the criminal record on his, it's there. So Santos not getting away from that. What it does is it frees you. What specifically this commutation did is freed Santos from paying fines and from serving out the remainder of his jail term. Now, I have my simple response to this is I'm pleased that Trump did this. A couple of thoughts in no particular order about why. Number one, first person that comes to mind in this is a unfortunate man by the name of Scooter Libby. Scooter Libby was chief of staff, ran Cheney's office. I think he was chief of staff at the time of the Valerie Plame scandal. Remember Valerie Plame? I think her Joe Wilson, was that Ambassador Joe Wilson? That's his name. Okay. And, they were this glamorous couple and the media ran with it. And basically, Scooter Libby got caught up in this fake scandal. It was a complete nothing burger investigation, right? But Scooter Libby lied to an FBI agent. That was the allegation. He got convicted of it. Went to jail, lost his law license. I mean, just his whole life was over. And George Bush, refused to do anything about it. Bush and Cheney had a falling out at the end of the Bush administration in 2009, because in the last weeks, days of Bush's presidency, Cheney was campaigning hard to give Scooter Libby something. to give him a pardon. And Bush played the high and mighty. We're Republicans. We don't do what Democrats do. Because that's classic Bush. Just a virtue signaling dummy. Now, did it win Bush any kudos? Do people remember Bush as a great president? Everybody, Republican and Democrat, look back at Bush now as being a complete turd. So I don't think it won him anything. And in the end, it was Trump that pardoned Scooter Libby in his first term. Remember that? Now, I will never forget this because it's stuck in my mind. Cheney was campaigning for the Libby pardon, and he told Bush flat out, and I have this from a number of sources close to Cheney, that Cheney said, you don't leave a man on the battlefield. To every single Republican, conservative, Trump supporter, okay, you know, one of us, to those of you who are having unease, qualms about what happened with Santos here, we don't leave a man on the battlefield because the battlefield is stacked against us by design. Let me give you, this is my second illustrative point. If Scooter Libby wasn't a better, a good enough example. Look at, and I bring this up here. I had it in my stack of stuff. Remember a man named Kevin Kleinsmith, FBI lawyer. The CIA sends an email to the FBI that Carter Page was in an operational contract working for the CIA, telling them about Russian contacts. Literally, Carter Page working for the CIA, helping our country. And Kevin Kleinsmith, okay, who was working for the FBI, edited the email to say the exact opposite. He literally took the email, he edited it. And in the editing, Carter Page, instead of saying that he was informing, he was not informing the FBI. He changed the language of it. And he used that counterfeit email to kick off the entire Russiagate, Spygate, FISA warrant mess that entrapped, ensnared, slowed down, obstructed Trump's first term in office. Now, what happened to Mr. Kleinsmith? He pled guilty. But a judge, and Robbie, you look up the judge and see if you're surprised by who the judge was on this. The judge didn't give him any jail time, a year of probation and 400 hours of community service. This is what happens in Washington, D.C., and I can tell you this, I know this, like I'm convinced of it, like the back of my hand. These people, this is a stacked operation against Trump and anybody in Trump's orbit. What do you think is the appropriate punishment for a guy who tried to overthrow a legitimate government of the United States, duly elected by you and I? What do you think that person, a lawyer, no less, working for the FBI, no less, what do you think they deserve in terms of punishment? No jail? Community service? The judge that gave him no jail and community service is none other than Jeb Boasberg, the obstructionist anti-Trump judge that has tried to thwart Trump at every turn, right? This is the guy that issued all the late night rulings against Trump. Now, I want to tell you one more thing. Biden or whoever else was running the show over there in the Biden administration, they gave over 90 preemptive full pardons, not commutations, to the people who engaged together with Kleinsmith and others in a vast conspiracy to overthrow and undermine the 2024 election. So we're not the same. We do not engage in subterfuge to win. They can't win on their merits, so they have to rely on all these dirty tactics. But this is treasonous conduct, okay? 400 hours and probation for treasonous conduct. So, okay, so Santos, he lied about stuff. I supported his ouster from Congress. I don't think he's a good person. My record is pretty on point here. But he did, went to jail, spent some months in jail, solitary confinement. I guarantee you it wasn't pleasant, and his criminal conviction still stands. I mean, I think when you stack it up against Kevin Kleinsmith, I think to me that Santos got one hell of a punishment. So, you disagree, email me, sam@whatsrightshow.com. I will respond to you. All right, folks, quick break here. We're almost out of time. Oh, by the way, Robbie, make sure tomorrow when I'm on with Alan, let's make sure that we bring up some of the stuff that I have some stories from DC that I want to share with Alan. So, particularly about Middle East peace. That's right. I had a very excellent meeting about this from people in the know, literally people who helped put together the Abraham Accord. So make sure that we talk about that tomorrow morning. 8:30 is when I'm on with Alan, Vegas at 8. Every Tuesday morning, 8:30, I'm on with him. So I'll do that tomorrow, and we'll go through all of it. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. All right, folks, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here. The What's Right show brought to you by Sam and Ash. Injury Law is on. I have one impression I want to share with you real fast for my DC trip. And when I tell you this, it makes what Donald Trump is doing all that much more spectacular. Because while it's much different, much better than it was in his first term, there still is a powerful establishment group of Republicans in Washington, D.C. that don't like Trump. I mean, it has to be said. I'm astounded by it, right? I don't like to spend a lot of time in D.C. for a very simple reason. To me, philosophically, power's with the people. And you will learn a lot more about the mood of the country in Las Vegas than you will in Washington, D.C. I mean, this is a fundamental truth. I understand why there were probably more people that attended the No Kings rally in D.C. than even places like Boston. I know they said there was a huge crowd in Boston, but they're making some of this stuff up. Again, there's the city, Washington, the establishment, the swamp, whatever you want to call it. These are people that have deep entrenched interests. There is an incredible amount of wealth in Washington. Beautiful apartment buildings, luxury stores, fancy restaurants, expensive meals, all of this, right? And when you start to think about it, just as an observer, you realize that this money that is flowing through the city is all coming out of where? Our government. Now, is a guy like Trump who wants to limit the amount of outflow from the government? Read our money, you and I, our tax dollars, limit the flow that goes to all these different groups. You realize how unpopular that is across the board, even among Republicans? Everybody was, feathering their nest with this stuff, right? I think that's the expression. Everybody was living a little large off the government. And we talked about this during Doge coming on the scene and identifying the waste. It was always designed to create a class of dependent takers, the same way that the government sets up welfare, food stamps, health insurance. There's ways that Democrats want people not to be independent. They want people to be dependent to be reliant on the government, because as long as they're reliant on the government, they become malleable, reliable acolytes of the Democratic Party and voters for Democrats. But that's for the peasants. Here's a very important point, right? That's welfare for the peasants. That's $100 here, $1,000, $2,000 there. But the political system over the last several decades has created a millionaire's welfare system for the politically connected. It's very easy to score, or it was before Trump's term, to score a $2-3 million contract. I mean, nobody even looked at that. Remember how Elon Musk kept saying, well, what is this? We had stuff, millions of dollars just flying out. Nobody was even signing off on it. What was it doing, though? It was creating a permanent bureaucratic class of individuals that were feeding off of this, that were on the low end making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, on the high end making tens of millions of dollars a year, off of handing the power of government to themselves. And as a Republican, like Bush, okay, and maybe even Reagan back then in some respects, you've got to look at it critically now, let the standard operating procedure continue. Let the same old, carry on. Because who wants to ruffle those feathers? Who wants to rock that boat? You rock that boat, you get some very powerful people against you. You get people who are currently in the intelligence services, who are out of the intelligence services, who have the means to do you harm. We still have a lot of unanswered questions about the attempt on Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I don't know if you saw this on the news the other day, but Trump, where he lands when he goes down to Mar-a-Lago, lands at Palm Beach International Airport. It is a tight airport. It's a jam-packed airport. And I flew in there one time on a private jet, and where we were landing was got in the area now where Air Force One parks. And it's you can imagine everybody, a lot of people in Palm Beach have private jets. It's very crowded is my point. And there, the area around it is not like a hunting area, but they found a hunter's stand, basically a sniper's nest in a tree with a direct line of sight at the area of the tarmac where Air Force One parks. That's a concern. FBI is on it, Kash Patel's on it, the Secret Service is on it, and I think it was Donald Trump Jr. or maybe Eric Trump that tweeted out this morning on X and said how they really commended the Secret Service for finding this out. They're always very gracious about it. I'm concerned that this thing got even built to begin with, right? That perimeter around the airport isn't more secure. And as I understand it from looking at a map, I mean, this is like not a hunting area, okay? So, I think my big picture is, praying for Trump. Because when I visited DC, I think there's still a lot of people that would be much happier. They want a Republican government, yes, but be much happier with someone who doesn't rock the boat as much as Trump does. And what Trump is sacrificing all the way up to his personal safety for you and me is astonishing. And this is probably one of the reasons why I don't get all bent out of shape when I see him do something like commute the sentence of George Santos. And why I think, with all due respect, I offer this as a thought to carry forward. I give Trump a lot of grace, given what he has overcome, what he has faced, what he has managed to conquer, right? And destroy by way of opposition, but also what he has given up. This is a guy who could be chilling in his penthouses and in his estates and golf courses and taking it easy. Instead, he's, literally had 2 assassination attempts on his life and could have more. it could all be over in a minute. I don't want to be, dark here, but I mean, it's a concern. It's crossed my mind. It crosses my mind. Certainly after Charlie Kirk's violent death. So, yeah, I don't spend as much time second guessing it. And I always try to explain it. If there's a big problem with something, I'll say it, but I'll always couch it with an appreciation for what Trump has done and what he's given up and what he will continue to give up to put this country in the right course. Because all those entrenched interests, that is not us. That is not we the people. It's not even really the interests of those people you see in these No Kings. They're all whacked out, mad at Trump. But in reality, he's fighting for them too. Because we're in this together. We want to have more say in our country than some swamp bureaucracy. And Trump's done a lot to advance that. All right, folks, I'll see you tomorrow. Be well. Look forward to doing this all over again tomorrow. So we've got, I'll see you in Allen's Talk. Tune in 8:30 tomorrow. And then, of course, Mark Levin up next. Sam Mirejovsky, over now.